Earlier on, we brought you the story where at least one undocumented foreign national has been arrested and several Spaza shops have been closed as raids by various departments swept through various towns in the Northern Cape. Several provincial MECs, officials from provincial government and municipalities are conducting raids on Spaza shops this weekend. It follows an incident where a child found a pill inside a packet of biscuits earlier this week. For more on this, we're joined by Crime and Violence Independent Specialist Kock. Chris, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Chris, there's clearly a problem here of a mismatch in the culture of compliance to health and safety standards by Spaza shops. Does raids, or do raids like these rather, change and enforce a more stringent culture of compliance?
Yeah, you see, I think this raid is now a reaction on the nearly 22 children that died in the past few weeks. And there was about 890 cases of food-related disease. So the raids is a reaction on that for government to show that they are doing something. But I think what the president have announced yesterday, in the long run, that can work. I think these businesses must all get registered, and they must be checked for how do they comply to work with food, to all the health regulations, and that you don't keep poison and food in the same shop and that kind of things.
What the president announced was merely just an enforcement of existing regulations, it seems, except now that there's a 21-day window to be able to become compliant if you're not, and if you're not compliant after 21 days, you'll be closed, forcibly so. But nothing mechanically has changed the circumstances that had led to the culture of non-compliance. The socio-economic conditionalities are still present. It's not been done away with. Do you anticipate that the picture will change after the next 3 weeks?
Yeah, I'm not very hopeful because there is this culture now of non-compliance. And it's not only with Spaza shops. I mean, it's with a whole lot of issues. And so I'm not 100% hopeful that this will change the situation. I just think that this thing developed. I mean, years ago there would be strict regulations, which is still there, but it has to be applied. You have to have very regular inspections by inspectors, health inspectors of the municipality.
Yeah, let's talk about.
And it's actually not. It's also not. For me, this is actually not a police function.
Right.
You see, now we're using for the police for another function again.
Would you say this is
to do with bylaws and regulations and so on, but it's actually the work of health inspectors.
Are you saying that this is a misappropriation of police time and resources?
I think so. I think one can say so because, you know, if you add all of these things to the police functions, then in the end, the organized crime, violent crime, those things will not get the necessary attention.
Yeah. Part of what has led to this, at least when we talk about some of the raids that have been done where expired food goods have been discovered, where the discovery of banned substances or at least limited substances like turbophos as an organophosphate, for instance. It's not supposed to be in domestic and household use, but nonetheless, you find it in that instance. Part of it can be and often is linked to organized criminal syndicates that have had a field day on the culture of non-compliance and the lack of enforcement of compliance by the necessary authorities. What happens from a top-down approach in a criminal syndicated fashion in the aftermath of these 21-day raids?
Yeah, well, I can't answer you on that thing, what is going to happen. But it is true that because of not complying, organized crime have a field day. But I don't know if it's on this subject of the Spaza shops. You know, the Spaza shops are there for many, many, many years. I mean, they are there for decades, if not centuries. That the same apply to illegal or to Sabines. it's similar fashion, informal economy in certain areas of our country, in township areas. So I don't know if we can apply or can link this to organized crime, what is happening now. What is going to happen after the 21 days, what can happen is a lot of these Spaza shops can be closed. And that can have quite a fatal blow on the informal economy in that poor areas.
In what sense? By consolidating big business as the primary service providers or sale point for essential goods in townships? Is that the link you're drawing?
No, what I'm saying is there's people whose livelihood will then be in trouble. I mean, if your Spaza shop is closed, and even the people who buy there on credit, it will become very difficult for them.
Yeah. Chris, thank you so much for your time and your insights this evening. Really do appreciate it. Chris Kock is a crime and violence independent specialist.